Before the headlines, before the mugshots, before the world started asking what went wrong, there was a moment no one talks about. A moment where everything still looked perfect. From the outside, it was fame, beauty, control. The kind of life people dream about. But behind that image, something was quietly breaking. And by the time the world noticed, it was already too late to stop what had been set in motion. Because this isn't just a story about fame. It's about what happens when someone spends decades holding everything together until one day they can't anymore. And the most unsettling part? The warning signs were always there, but no one was really looking. So, how does someone go from being one of the most powerful women on television to becoming a headline for all the wrong reasons? What really happened behind the scenes? And why did it take everything falling apart for the truth to finally come out? To understand that, we have to go back, long before the spotlight, before the cameras, before the fame that would define her life. Heather Locklear was just a girl growing up in California. Nothing about her early life screamed future icon. No massive privilege. No overnight success waiting around the corner. In fact, it was the opposite. She was quiet, observant, not the center of attention. The kind of person people overlooked. But sometimes, the people no one notices are the ones quietly preparing for something bigger. Her upbringing was structured, but creative. A father rooted in discipline. A mother connected to the entertainment world. Two very different energies, shaping one personality. And somewhere in between, Heather learned something powerful early on. How to adapt, how to read people. And more importantly, how to win them over. There's a story from her childhood that seems small at first, but says everything. At just 6 years old, she managed to talk her way out of punishment, not by arguing, not by resisting, but by charming her parents into completely changing their minds. W-A-I-T. What? A child that young? Already understanding influence like that? It wasn't luck. It was instinct. But instinct alone doesn't guarantee success. And for a long time, success didn't come easy. Her teenage years were difficult. She struggled with confidence, felt invisible, even dealt with teasing and self-doubt. The kind of experiences that don't just disappear, they stay with you. And sometimes, they shape everything that comes next. But then something changed. She found the stage. And suddenly, the girl who felt unseen became impossible to ignore. It wasn't just about acting. It was about transformation, control, stepping into a version of herself that the real world hadn't allowed yet. And for the first time, people started paying attention. But here's the thing. Attention can be addictive. And once you feel it, it's hard to go back. At first, acting wasn't even the plan. She enrolled in college with a completely different future in mind. Something stable, predictable, safe. But life had other ideas. A small opportunity opened a door. One role led to another. And before she even had time to fully process it, she was stepping into an industry that would change everything. Her early days weren't glamorous. In fact, they were brutal. She struggled. She was criticized. At one point, she was even told she wasn't good enough. Sent to coaching just to fix the basics. Most people would have walked away. She didn't single quotes T. Instead, she did something far more dangerous. She stayed, and she learned, and slowly, something started to shift. Her presence became stronger, her confidence sharper, her ability undeniable. And then, it happened. The breakthrough. What started as small roles turned into something much bigger. She didn't just fit into television, she started transforming it. Shows that were struggling suddenly found life again. When she appeared, ratings climbed. Audiences returned. Producers took notice. And just like that, she wasn't just an actress anymore. She was power. But power comes with pressure. and pressure doesn't stay contained forever, because while her career was rising, her personal life was beginning to crack. From the outside, it looked like a dream. High-profile relationships, glamour, a life surrounded by success. But behind closed doors, it was chaos. Her marriage to Tommy Lee wasn't just intense, it was volatile. A relationship filled with emotional highs and devastating lows. The kind that drains you slowly until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. And when it ended, it didn't leave quietly. It left damage. Then came another chance at happiness. Another relationship that seemed stable, promising, different. But this time, the betrayal cut even deeper, because it didn't just come from a partner. It came from someone she trusted. Wait, what? A betrayal from someone close enough to destroy not just a relationship, but her entire sense of security? That's not heartbreak, that's collapse. And that's when everything started to unravel. The fame didn't disappear, but the stability did. What followed wasn't a single moment of failure. It was a slow descent. Anxiety, depression, emotional exhaustion, and eventually, substance dependency. And here's the part people don't like to talk about. Fame doesn't protect you from any of that. If anything, it makes it worse. Because now, every mistake, every breakdown, every moment of weakness becomes public. And by the time 2018 arrived, everything that had been hidden for years finally exploded into the open. Multiple incidents, law enforcement involvement, hospitalizations. The headlines were everywhere. But here's the question no one was asking at the time. Was this really the beginning of her downfall? Or just the first time the world was finally seeing it? Because behind every sudden collapse, there's usually a long story no one noticed. And in her case, that story had been building for years. This wasn't just about bad decisions. It was about accumulated pain, unresolved trauma, and a life lived under constant pressure to appear perfect. But even in the middle of all that chaos, something unexpected happened. Someone stayed, her daughter, while the world watched from a distance, judging, speculating, analyzing. There was one person who refused to walk away, supporting her, standing by her, not as a fan, not as an observer, but as family. And sometimes, that's the difference between complete collapse and the chance to rebuild, because recovery didn't happen overnight. It wasn't clean. It wasn't simple. There were setbacks, moments that looked like progress, followed by moments that felt like failure. But slowly, piece by piece, something started coming back. Not the fame, not the image, but something more important. Stability, clarity, peace, and maybe, for the first time in a long time, a version of life that didn't rely on perfection. Because here's the truth. Most people don't realize her story isn't just about success, and it's not just about downfall either. It's about what happens in between, the parts no one sees. The quiet battles, moments where everything feels like it's slipping, and you're the only one trying to hold it together. So when people look at her life and ask, what went wrong? Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the real question is, how did she carry it for so long? Because in the end, she didn't just fall once. She fell multiple times. And somehow, she kept getting back up. And maybe that's the part of her story that matters most. Not the fame, not the headlines, but the fact that even after everything, she didn't disappear. And sometimes, that's the strongest kind of survival there is.